Welcome, Reanimated fans, to this week's podcast. I'm AJ Conrad, coming to you from Brooklyn, here with my intrepid co-host on the West Coast, Stuart Tiffin. How are you, Stuart?
Good day. Good day,
Hey.
as they say.
You know what I was thinking about? The time that we podcasted live, we got to eat really good sandwiches and drink beer. That was a really good day.
That was one of the times we've podcasted, and never
Well,
live. Let's be honest. Just at the same time, in the same
all right,
room.
fine. In the same room. I was
That
thinking
was
of
that was
that.
2 times ago that we
I
podcast.
know it
Because
was 2 times ago because
yeah,
the last time,
I
that
don't
was.
think we had sandwiches. We
We
did have
didn't, but
beer, but no
clearly,
sandwiches.
clearly, I'm focused on the sandwiches, because those were good sandwiches. And I was thinking about getting a sandwich today, so there you go.
You know what I did yesterday, which was kind of an act of desperation. I was at a bar slash restaurant waiting for my son to finish his piano lesson. And I have like 45 minutes, so I don't have time to do much. But they have this sandwich on the menu. I'm looking at it. It looks really good. I'm like, it's 4:30. I definitely do not want to eat a meal right now. That doesn't make any sense. But the sandwich looks so good. So I got it just to go. And
And then you ate the whole thing.
I'm gonna eat it today. I still haven't eaten it, but I feel like that was one of the top 10 weirdest things that I've done at a restaurant.
What kind of a sandwich was it?
It's just an Italian, like it's nothing fancy, but it's got spicy coppa, it's chili oil. I don't know how that's gonna have percolated overnight, but
Well, oh, that sounds really good. Maybe.
I'm excited for it. It's on ciabatta. Ciabatta actually ages pretty well too, so I'm excited for to eat the sandwich later. I'll let you know how it goes. I'll text you.
Please do.
Yeah.
There's a place in our neighborhood that is like old school. Like this is not the original shop. Their original shop was somewhere, I think, in Little Italy. But they have the most amazing sandwiches and bread. There's two of them. There's like another one that's like much further away from us, but this one is literally like a couple blocks from us. So I tend to go to this one. But this is like, when I'm feeling like, hey, I just want to be, totally not paying any attention to health or anything. I go there and I get their Italians and their Italian sandwiches, and they have like, the normal stuff too, but they have all the fresh made pasta and all that stuff. It's really great, and the people in there are so nice. And like, there have been times when I've gone in there just to get bread or whatever, and they throw out a lot at the end of the day, and the guy was just like, "You can take like 4 loaves." Like, I was like, "I don't know what I'm gonna." He's like, "Just
What would
take
I
it,
do with
take it."
4 loaves?
He's like, "Make French toast with it," and
That's
I'm
a
like,
lot of French toast.
I know, but you know what was weird is that I did take it because he was so insistent and so kind, and we did make French toast for a bunch of our friends. So
Okay.
it worked
Yeah.
out, and it was
If you're
delicious.
having a French toast party of sorts, then yes, maybe that makes sense.
We made an impromptu French toast party, so all good. But anyway, I digress. Anyway, I'm probably going to get a good sandwich today now because of you. So thanks for the inspiration.
Yeah, no problem. And speaking of inspiration, H.A. Conrad, would you ever get on the back of a Ducati with a kind of a complete stranger and just white knuckle your way through the Tasmanian countryside?
If it was you, possibly, but
I
not
said a
stranger.
complete stranger. Yeah,
I don't
also
know. Certainly,
not
okay, we're going to
not
talk about
Clay.
this. We're going to talk about this because there's a lot to unpack in this film. A lot of questions, more questions than answers. And what we're talking about is We Bury the Dead, which we've been very excited about reviewing for a really long time. It came out, did it
Last
come
year.
out in 2024?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
But we
sorry,
haven't
that's
been
more
doing
than
that.
last year. That's 2 years ago. I think it came out in 2024 in Australia and New Zealand.
Uh,
Nope, that's not true. It came out in 2026, but it had a premiere at the Adelaide Film Festival in 2024, which is, I think, why it's got that date on it. But it was theatrically released in Australia and New Zealand just a month ago.
okay.
In
Well,
Yeah. So
so this is Daisy Ridley, who we really think we're really excited to see her doing this. And there's a lot to talk about in this film, which is good that we have a lot to talk about because there is absolutely no news out there this week for some reason. I'm gonna blame the groundhog, which I'm blaming for everything, including all the snow we have that's not melting.
poor
Um,
Punxsutawney Phil.
yep, terrible. Anyway, um, yeah. And I don't have an Italian sandwich to eat while we're watching this. I'm actually impressed with your willpower, Stuart, not eating that sandwich. Like, is it that it looked good or that you were starving and then you were like, I'm going to save myself, but I'll save this till tomorrow?
I mean, I
Or,
went out and had a normal dinner with my kids, so I just didn't bring out a random sandwich at the restaurant that we went to for dinner.
okay.
So it was just, yeah, there were moving pieces, you know. Had to pick up the kid from his thing, then pick up the daughter from her thing, and then you feed them.
Yeah, I just would, if I was super hungry, I just wouldn't have the willpower I would just eat it right there.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're good, but you'll have to report back about that.
Oh
Anyway,
yeah.
back to our film. And so I watched this on Prime, but it's available on a bunch of different services right now. Um, and so I don't even well, I know where to begin sort of the premise of the film, but let's talk a little bit about just the general sort of logistics of the film.
The squad who put it
No,
together,
let's talk about sort of like the the director who is Zach Hilditch. And I don't know that I've seen the films that he has done. Have you seen anything that he's put together?
1920. Nope, I haven't seen any of
No.
these. These are all nope.
Weirdly, I think I have heard of These Final Hours, but I don't think I have actually watched it. It was, um, I think this was like his debut. It seems very familiar to me, so maybe we should check it out. But anyway, and that came out a long time ago, like 2013. And then, this specifically, like in terms of budget, it actually looks pretty good. Um, and so I thought that just the quality and the editing, but it does have almost like a Mad Max graininess to it to some extent, or that vibe, which is, makes sense. It's Australia,
It
but
would, and it's post-apocalyptic, but it's like on a scale that is not Mad Max level. It's just like this island has faced an apocalypse, and the people who are there now are trying to fix it. So
yeah,
it still has that sort of Australian post-apocalyptic vibe, but it's also got the veneer of uh yeah, I think to me it's a fresh premise. This is definitely not something we've seen before. And I will say some of the critical response trots out what to me is a very tired criticism of nothing new in the genre. And I'm like, you guys need to find some new way to criticize the zombie genre because clearly you're not paying attention. I know I've
right.
said this a million times, but I see them keep saying the same thing, so I feel like I have to be like, no, dude, you're not looking close enough. Like this is different. This is a different kind of movie. And like if I may, HA, one of the most different things about this film is nobody actually gets hurt or killed by a zombie in this movie.
Correct, correct. And it's also in an area that, you don't always see, um, like Australian filmmaking and things like that. There have definitely been some gems, and there's been actually a lot more activity in terms of filmmaking. So I think that they really did a good job at using just sort of what I would say is like another cast member in terms of the place that they're in.
Yeah, they use the landscape well, but it's also
Really,
this idea that it's on fire. Like the
no,
fire of
agreed.
Hobart is a huge kind of like
Yeah. And
presence.
it's like I like we'll talk about this, but I think the way they set this up was really just the impact of the devastation. I think they did a really good job at showing that.
Yeah.
And this was apparently filmed in the director's home state in Western Australia.
Oh, cool.
So that was, a place near and dear, which I thought was kind of cool that he did this in his home. Um, and or hometown or home area, so to speak, because Australia's big. So I really liked a lot of things about this, and I think that they did have a very different take on some of this. Um,
I like
so
the music a lot
yeah,
in this film.
really,
It opens up with just a few bars of some Kid Cudi. which just seems very out of character in a way for this
Mhm.
film. But like he's a hip hop artist who consider to be kind of like a depressing rap artist. Like his music is usually kind of a downer, but it's also cool. I don't know. Like it's hard to explain, but I mean that makes sense thematically. This is a sad film, right? Like
Mhm.
it's about grief again, like kind of like We Handle the Dead or Handling the Dead. What was the name of that Norwegian film?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
It's
the
not
one
quite
where,
the same thing, but thematically, I think it's dealing with some of the same stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, but that movie was much more still and quiet and depressing. This one is not as still or quiet or depressing, but
correct.
it's similarly themed. But again, I did like the music. They have some tracks that are a lot of like that was the one that was kind of to me that made me think of depressing. The Kid Cudi track that starts with the opening credits and it stops very fast because we go into their wedding scene. But then there's like a punk track when they're on the back of the
Hmm.
motorcycle. There's some sort of rock track when they're at the hotel or she's at the hotel
Yep,
in the party scene. And then there was a lot of just like really nice electronic soundtrack music that I thought worked very well too.
yep. And then they rolled out with some metric, which I thought was pretty good. And then this film cost about 3 million to make, which is actually not that much. That was a lot less than I thought it would be watching it.
Wonder what it costs to rent a Ducati
Correct. Maybe
and drive it
most of the budget went to renting that bike, possibly.
and driving it over some boulders.
Yeah. So, um,
Not a huge cast. I mean, there are quite a few speaking roles, especially early on in the first act, but then quickly the story in the second and third acts progress to well, where it's just like a handful of characters who have the ability of speech.
mhm.
And then there's a lot of background people, obviously. And I think when you look at this from the world building and the background acting quality and the zombie acting quality, it was pretty fantastic.
Yeah. And yeah, so let's kind of dive into it. I think there's a lot of things I loved about this, but there's definitely some themes of this that I either wish they had explored and got more into, or I felt like they had invested a lot in some of it and then just kind of like didn't resolve certain things, or there were kind of mysteries to me. Um, but so the premise of this is that there was an experimental weapon that basically, of course, US based. Um, got to make the US the enemies in this
Hey,
particular.
at least they made Daisy Ridley an American so that we had
Well, that
somebody
okay.
somebody there who's like an innocent.
We'll talk about one of the paths, which I like was like, oh, I thought something was going a certain way because of something, but it didn't. But we'll talk about that. Anyway, the whole premise of this is that this weapon was discharged, and basically the whole population of Tasmania was killed. And so Australia, and maybe a little bit more than that, but basically the government of Australia is asking for people to volunteer. And what is happening is that a lot of the people that had friends and relatives in that area and this volunteer to like handle and do like body retrieval and things like that in conjunction with the armed forces of Australia, I think, and others.
Just Australia, I'm pretty sure.
Um, so Daisy Ridley volunteers. I thought that the decision to do, sort of the opening scene with her wedding and you get some background, their use of flashbacks I thought was quite artful in terms of the timeline.
Yeah,
She's the only one that they really do this with.
absolutely the only person. And it
Um,
often would happen and it's quite quickly and it
mhm,
helps to kind of yeah, it does help to propel her our understanding of what she's doing. And it's often when she's in a place that reminds her of something too, which
right.
seems to be helpful too.
Um, and one of the things I really liked about this is that part of the mystery or things that are being filled in is her grief, her relationship with her husband before he went away, and it really like it is a bit of it's a puzzle, and you think that it's one thing when you first start, and actually seems it's all a little bit tropey, but the beginning part seems to make total sense, and then it starts to take on a deeper resonance when you realize some of the things that she's processing and some of the things that happened before he went away. And so I thought they did this in a very natural way versus a forced way. I don't think it was annoying how they revealed a lot of this. I thought it made sense in terms of the story. So I was very impressed with how they managed this.
I agree.
I thought it was good storytelling. I thought it was good filmmaking.
And their scenes
And
together, as few and seldom and short as they were, I felt like they conveyed the complexity of their relationship pretty well.
yep.
I mean, in the first scene, it's just them at their wedding and they're in bliss mode, but the subsequent scenes, then when things are getting more complicated, in hindsight, they make a lot of sense too. So she wakes up on a plane, having been dreaming about her wedding night, and she looks out the window, and there is the city of Hobart, a giant column of smoke over the
Yes.
landscape. And she's sitting next to a lady who says something. At the time, you're like, what is she talking about? I mean, we know it's a zombie movie, but she's
Hmm.
like, apparently they didn't feel any pain. They just went to sleep. And hopefully my son, or I think she's talking about her boy, is going to be one of the lucky ones who wakes up, because they're hearing rumors that some of the people who have died are waking up. And that continues to be a question that they talk about when she lands and at their like safety briefing and stuff.
And they're asking questions of the military. They're asking, is this true? Are people coming back online? And then the military are saying things like, oh, they're totally docile. They're just, essentially it's like a computer that's just waking up and then we take care of it and take them offline again.
With the
And
dignity that they deserve, which I cannot get that line out of my
yeah,
head. The fact that this like colonel or somebody, this Australian military commander says that, like, let us, if you see one that comes, that wakes up, just let us know. Our troops will take care of it. And, with the dignity that they deserve. The dignity, it turns out, is just a couple of soldiers run in and shoot the person.
yeah, it's not really dignity.
I don't know that it's very dignified, but it certainly it sets the expectation that they're not taking chances with these guys. There's some sort of fear that they're dangerous. It must be, because otherwise, why would they be using weapons to dignifiably put them down instead of like put
Right.
them on a gurney? And they're not doing any kind of like medical experiments here, or medical treatment. They're just saying, okay, this person who is dead has stood up and we're going to shoot them.
Yep.
But everybody is being told, don't worry, they're docile. It's not a big deal. And if one of them does wake up, let us know. And so then we cut to their bus ride. Um, Obviously, like Ava, who's Disney, Daisy Ridley, Daisy Ridley's character is Ava. She has an American accent. She is the only non-Australian I think that we have any interaction with on in the film. And
Other than in flashbacks with her husband.
right, yeah, that's true. And she has said, "I'm here on a compassionate exemption because my husband is in the southern part of Tasmania." And she's told during her like in processing, nobody goes south of Hobart because it's still on fire. We can't get through there. You're just going to have to bide your time, and you're here to clear bodies. And what she also says is that she's a physical therapist. I feel like that doesn't have really anything to do with the story. There's a couple scenes where they come back to it, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that does for the story per se. Maybe there was a different career she could have had, but it's as good as anything, I guess,
Yeah.
as just a random career that she has.
Yeah. Um,
But yeah, so she understands that she's basically going to be helping to clear houses of Tasmanians. I don't know if you call them that in Australia, who have died at home, and this is her work detail until she can eventually get to the south and find what happened to her husband.
right. And look, this is not work for the faint of heart, for sure. This is very hard work. You have to go in and basically see people in their homes, and sort of see like what happened or where they were, like and seeing like their like the pictures and and little kids and like it's really not it's very difficult work and as you would imagine that it would be and it's like people are not able to deal with this in a really like which I totally get.
Well,
Like, I
it's
think this
interesting
would be
that
really hard for anybody, especially if you know that your loved one had been part of this. And so, even for her, you're not able to see your husband, you're not able to have closure with that, but you're going to all these houses. And so, you're kind of getting an idea of what actually happened, and it's devastating.
well, you're saying you, but it's really like from we're looking at Daisy. We're looking at Ava going through this. The person
Yep.
she's with, her first partner, this short-haired, muscular lady, is
Yep.
just kind of chatting at first when they go into their first house.
Yeah. And
She's
then
moving,
she's
she's
not.
moving really fast also.
Mhm.
Ava is like looking very slowly at all the portraits on the walls. She's looking at the number of shoes outside the front door.
Yeah.
But her partner goes in very quickly, and then it's Ava who finds the family, or most of them are dead
Yeah.
outside in the backyard. And but when we cut to them, they've dragged the bodies to the front to the curb, which is where then the military is like taking some hair, taking photos, finding IDs. And her partner is like, "I'm done. I gotta go home and hug my kids." And then across the street, we're also introduced to Clay, who is a long-haired Josh Hartnett Australian style. I don't know. What did you think of Brenton Thwaites?
I mean, he's kind of exactly what you would expect him to be.
What does that
Um,
mean?
like he's definitely playing to this like chirpy kind of like tough whatever Australian dude. He's also matter of fact, he's like kind of like he's acting like this isn't a big deal in a different way than everybody else seems to be,
He's
which
very irreverent. Yeah.
yeah. And more
And,
like, oh, let's just get this over with and that kind of thing. So and things change with him a little bit, though he kind of plays true to himself.
right till the third act, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
He
So,
doesn't really share anything about his situation until the very end of the film. But he is like the fact that he eventually, at the end of the first act, agrees to help her. Like that, I guess that's pretty revealing. But the way he does it is also pretty funny. But yeah, so his partner also pieces out after his first house, and so Ava and Clay get teamed up, and they seem like an unlikely duo. And she is still kind of spacing out a lot. He's like, "Hey, you gonna just stand there? Or are you gonna help me?" And we have like a montage of them clearing multiple homes and finding all these dead bodies,
right,
which I thought was like so their first day, it feels like they at first don't run into any reanimated corpses, but eventually they do. Um, and this was a pretty good introductory. I mean, there's also a scene of some of their other body retrieval people having found one, but we don't get to see what happens. We just see the military
right.
go inside.
There's also chatter amongst the people who are recovering.
Yeah,
There's one where you have like an overheard conversation where they're saying, "Oh, maybe this could give us some," and it's like a couple, I think, and they're maybe this could give us some insight into neural networks and into like people, blah blah blah. And then they actually find one, and you see them feature like you see them in the background later where they're absolutely devastated, like they're leaning against each other in the party scene. And I think they're all thinking about this, and we also see a scene with the older woman who she had been sitting next to on the plane, where I guess they had recovered her son, and she keeps wanting to come back online, which, that's weird because what happens when they come back online is that the army just kills them or just makes sure that they're not online anymore. So but it's just about people maybe wanting closure, maybe trying to manage their, not manage, but process their grief. But I don't know that this would have made total sense to have the people there that are obviously connected with a lot of the dead
yeah,
because,
it's a bit of a question mark. Like you
yeah,
want
I don't,
civilians to come in and do this work, but then again, who has they have 500,000 bodies to take
right,
care of. They're gonna need help.
right.
So I guess volunteers is as good a way as any to do it. And for people volunteering, it's gonna be the people who have a personal stake
Right.
mostly.
Yeah, because this is not exactly something, unless you're paying, even if you're paying people a lot of money, this feels like a pretty difficult thing to do, no matter what, a very traumatic thing to do.
But
So,
that first zombie in the garage, what did you think of that scene?
I mean, I thought, I thought that it was pretty realistic that she's like, because the thing that I thought that they did really well is she's very curious about this. She doesn't comment too much on it, though later she does start to comment a little bit more and ask more questions and make more observations. But you definitely get the sense, I mean, it's pretty obvious that what she's hoping, and later we find out why, but like she wants to have some resolution with her husband. And so I think she's very curious in a way that other people like that we haven't been seeing obviously from her body handling partner, but like and he, look, to his credit, he's like get away from that, like you need to get back and
No,
like
that's not till the next day.
it's
Like
still the next one, but
this one, he's just like righto, and then goes outside and lights
yeah.
up a smoke grenade.
No, but and she just kind of stays there and keeps looking at him. But like, and later, like she does not have the same aversion in terms of it. Like, even the couple who found the when we see them run out of the house,
Yeah.
they're not staying there to find out, but she is. So that's a good.
She's really interested in trying to see what's happening. Like it's
Yeah.
basically a scene of confirmation bias where she's looking for
Yep.
some inkling of awareness in the eyes of this one zombie that they find who's covered in motor oil, looks quite disturbing. And what is unclear to me is how many days have actually passed since the event. You can imagine if she flew from the US, it's been a couple of days, and I guess it took a couple of days for them to start this effort. But these bodies are quite deteriorated, a lot of them.
Yep.
Even the two they find in the shower have real widespread like skin, I don't know, issues. And by the time by the third act, which is only like 2 days later, a day later, um, the bodies they're looking at are
Yeah.
pretty like not desiccated, but like have holes in the flesh and stuff where you're
Yeah.
like, this doesn't, and I don't know, maybe it's been a week or two, but
Yeah.
even so,
That was one thing I was like, I can't. What is the time? Like, it was hard to know what the time passage was exactly.
yeah.
Um, but I will say the makeup I thought was pretty
The
good. The
makeup
effects
is incredibly good. Yeah,
It's
like
really good, the effect. And, you're talking about a very hot part of the country. So, a hot area of the world, and at least this time of year. And they did a really good job, I thought, with showing the decomp and what might happen.
hmm,
So I thought that was actually like disturbing and excellent, but like really, to me, very realistic. And also in showing sort of like, they show in the beginning of the film just sort of like a map and just what happened and sort of these kind of quick edits about the whatever this experimental weapon was. So you get like that immediate sense of devastation. And then they continue that visualization as you go through, like they'll do some like like when they pan out over the whole neighborhood and you're made to realize like you kind of see the little crews working and things like that and you realize that like every single one of those houses has to be cleared. Like
hmm.
I thought that they showed the absolute devastation of this in this area and how many people that would actually mean. Um, like I thought that was excellent. If not, I mean, it was very disturbing and upsetting for sure, but I thought that they did a really good job at that in terms of getting the full, like, honestly, almost not even able to comprehend what that would be like to be part of this crew and to have this job ahead of you.
Yeah, the scope of the problem
Yep.
is well presented. So the end of their first day is basically when they find that zombie. In the way it's presented, its eyes are open, or one of them is anyway, and
One.
then
Yeah.
its jaw is barely
Hmm.
moving at all, and then the jaw becomes one of the most disturbing characteristics of these undead as the
Yeah.
movie goes on. So that night, I feel like it's basically that's her epiphany moment. She's like, that zombie, there was something going on with it. I now need to ditch this detail and get down to Woodbridge, which is where her husband's was the last time she was aware of where he was. And so she makes a plan in her hotel room with a map, and she's like, all right, it's 200 miles. She puts on a little backpack. She tries to escape
Hmm.
when one of the soldiers who was there for her processing day, the one who said how docile the undead were, catches her and is like, "You shouldn't even be allowed here as an American." And that's the only time that sentiment is voiced in the movie. I mean, I get it should have been at some point, so I'm glad they kind of addressed it since they made Ava an American and this was an
Hmm.
American problem. Actually, that's not true. The soldier that they have interactions with also says something about Yanks and their weapon. But I thought that was we needed to hear it, and I was a little bit surprised that she almost got out of the compound. It felt like anyway. She didn't even get out of the building, to be fair.
Well, I do like that the person that catches her is the same woman who she spoke to about the fact that she wanted to go south to that resort.
That
And
was not that was a different lady.
oh,
This
was
was the
it? I thought it
blonde
was.
one, and that one lady had black hair.
Oh,
But
sorry. I
they
guess
were
I
both lady
missed.
soldiers.
I thought it was the same person. Oops. But in any case, I mean, to me, it's pretty obvious if you've got people that have come, if you have volunteers who have come to basically find resolution, you're going to have people that are trying to like get out and escape like this. So
Yeah.
I think they were on the lookout for that. That said, it seemed relatively easy for her to get as far as she did.
I mean, yeah, like I said, she didn't even get out of the hotel,
Right.
but she thought she'd found a clear way out. And this lady, who I think is credited as Lieutenant somebody, uh, Lieutenant Wilkie, maybe, yeah. She she's just in the kitchen or back in the loading dock smoking a cigarette. Doesn't look like she's necessarily on guard. But yeah. So she doesn't get out and she's like sent to go to this party room where everybody is. This is a scene that you often see in war movies, where it's like the reporters are all getting all the civilians in the war zone are getting hammered to try and, cope, I think. And so that's kind of what's going on in this scene. You got people throwing up into punch bowls. You've got the dance floor has like a just married sign hung up
Yeah,
across
it's
it.
pretty rough.
It's pretty, especially for Ava, obviously.
Hmm.
And so she kind of threads her way through the crowd and sits next to Clay, uh, and says that's where she kind of delivers her thesis that these zombies still have something going on behind their eyes. And he's like, "No, dude, we saw a guy covered in motor oil, and yeah, he's not buying it at that point."
Nope. He's hard to access for sure, but he's not like, I don't know. He's giving the comfort in the way that he possibly can, which is just to pass a bottle to her. He's a bit cavalier for sure, but at least, I will say it's probably better than um providing something that doesn't feel as honest from him anyway.
Yeah, he is not picking up what she's putting down at this point, and
Right.
he's just there to. We don't really know what his motivations are, but he is irreverent as ever. And then we cut to the next day, and they're in a new. Well, yeah, we cut to the next day. She's in a house. Um, her husband is a zombie potentially. I think that might have been her husband, and comes out of a doorway, and it like comes toward her and it's a jump scare, and she wakes up, and it was all a dream. So
Yeah,
she's clearly
I wasn't sure if that was supposed to be him. I should have
it could have
paused it.
been, yeah, like it's a flash on the screen. He has dark hair, maybe he has a beard, so it could have been him, maybe not. But it looks enough like him that you know, and it's a pretty quick little dream sequence. She wakes up and then they're out clearing houses again. This one they go into a garage where she finds a stag party with like 30 dead people in this back room. And she's heard Clay oohing and ahhing over this motorcycle.
Yeah. I mean, it is a pretty nice motorcycle,
It's a very
but he's very focused on that, and she is focused on this incredibly like, and this is all kind of related to the same scene we saw before. I like, or maybe it's not, but this was like kind of like a stag party or something. And the sort of scene, I will say that the staging of this I thought was just devastating but excellent. So there's like strippers in there and like everybody's all gathered around and in these like different parts of this compound, and like they even have this woman that's like basically one leg up on like the pole, like it's
the
really,
the
and
leg
everybody
still.
just fell where they were. And so
Yeah.
I thought that the staging of this is horrible, but also it was like really well done.
What's interesting here and what's worth thinking about is this happened at breakfast time.
Right, I was thinking the same thing, so I was like, have these people been just up all night? Probably.
Yeah, maybe, but That's, I mean, a bachelor party that's still going at like 8, 9 a.m. the next day. Woof.
Hey, people are gonna
I mean,
bachelor,
they
man.
did have cocaine. Like Clay is just doing
I
a
think this is
line.
a pretty party dude, you know?
Yeah. Uh,
So,
anyway, so they here Ava basically puts her map on the table and she's like, "Look, if we leave today on this motorcycle, you say you like to ride. How would you like to take it for a ride? We can get down to Woodbridge later today if we find a clear route." And she's like, "Here are the back roads. I've identified the way to go." And you go, and this I thought was a very good little piece of dialogue. He's like, "Look, Ava, I get that you're here for your husband, but I'm here for my country. My country needs me. The dead need me." And he's like, "Haha, just
mm,
kidding. Let's go. I don't have any problem with this whatsoever." And here I'm wondering what his motivation is. Is it because he is romantically interested in her? If that's the case, that's not something that is taken any further in this film, and I appreciate that.
hmm.
What do you think?
Which part?
Why
That
is he doing this? He like when we hear about his motivations later in the film, why is he doing this?
so I like this is the thing. This is one of the pieces that I'm like, this fell a little flat given the buildup because I thought that this was kind of a buildup. Like I think I was like, oh, he's deflecting because there's some deep dark something happening. And eventually the story he tells just seems not to be, to me, deep enough, other than maybe he's trying to find some meaning. And maybe like this potentially, and I think this is actually a pretty good thing, although they just don't get there with how he expresses it. But this whole thing maybe was a wake up call for him and his life and the way he's living it. And so he wanted to do something that would be meaningful. That said, they use him as a bit of a comic foil, like this, like comic relief to some extent because he's so like matter of fact and cavalier about all of this. So it falls a little bit flat. Like you could use that as a deflection technique, but to me, I felt like I would have liked a little bit more from him, and not just have him be like that tropey character. What did you feel that too?
I, well, yeah, I guess in this moment or in hindsight, I'm looking at this scene thinking like, why would he have agreed to do this when his motivation is to prove to his son and daughter that he isn't a joke or that he is a stand-up guy. For whatever the reason is that they don't like him, it's probably because of his attitude, frankly. And in a way, here he's really just leaning into his cavalier and irreverent nature by saying, "Screw the rules. I'm going to help this cute massage therapist find her dead husband."
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, I was actually like the way that he flipped and was like, okay, and he messed around and like was just like teasing her, and then he was like, oh yeah, yeah, I'll help. And I mean, that's in line with his attitude. I guess I don't like because of what we know about him. Like maybe there's more to him, and it would have been nice to see a little bit more of that more consistently throughout the film versus just him kind of like suddenly doing this. I mean, I would also say that it's entirely possible that he really did just want to ride that Ducati.
that exactly that could be it because when we go ahead a few minutes, he is having so much fun on that
Oh, he loved that
motorcycle.
bike. And he keeps like looking back at her and it's like, keep in mind, they're going to like basically go to find her husband's body. He's like, are you doing great? And he's like so happy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So they go, but not before they have another interaction with a zombie who is one of the strippers who wakes up. And
Yeah.
again, Ava is just undeterred, walking toward it, and still trying to confirm her hope that they are aware. This zombie is standing up. It's grinding its teeth, and they start to do this and never
Oh,
stop. And they must have put some sort of dentures in this lady's mouth because they are jagged. Her teeth are like these jagged
oh, it's
things,
rough.
and the foley work they do with this sound that the zombies make, it sounds, yeah, it's just bone on bone, and this cracking noise. It has a bit of an echo, a pop, and it puts it makes your goosebumps definitely go, right? It's
Yep.
pretty wild stuff. And so Ava goes up to her and says, "Can you hear?" And you see the eyes go over to her. The teeth are still grinding, and we're close up on the teeth too.
Yep.
But the zombie doesn't move, and all we hear is Clay say, "Ava, what are you doing? Get away from it!"
Yeah.
And then we cut. They're outside. They're walking. They're walking the bike out to a safe distance when they can, I guess, start it up and drive away. And then they
Yeah.
do drive away at like 150 miles an hour, it seems like.
Yeah. And one thing I will say though is her fascination with this. And one thing doesn't totally jibe, although I guess it does because she doesn't the this reanimated person doesn't really do anything other than grind the teeth. Again, even in addition to the teeth, the makeup on her face is really good. Like it's almost like her face is almost like kind of like decomping and melting and weird, and like they did a good job with this. This is, I think the question is why Ava isn't automatically backing away because like so her fascination is so much that she's trying to figure out this mystery. And I will say that, her the fact uh that she's just kind of like she's definitely, I mean, sh- she's definitely shaken, right? But she's not like backing away in horror, if that makes sense. Like,
We
I
don't
don't
get
know
much
that
of a
I would be
reaction
standing.
shot. We don't really get to see how she responds to the eyeballs coming at her. And I don't think she's scared still. I don't think she is. And I would
Yeah, and
say even
Clay's
their next zombie interaction, they're not scared at first.
right. And Clay is like, I mean, look, this is the first instance where we actually see he's like, get away from there. And he's worried about himself too, but he actually like gets her out of there.
Yeah, here
Um,
he at least shows a little bit of urgency, and he's
right.
not just like, oh, having a little, tete-a-tete with a zombie. Haha.
Yeah, yeah,
No,
he
he's
doesn't do
like
that.
he's like, no, get away from it.
Yep.
So yeah, and then we're off piste. They're off doing their own thing. They've left the body retrieval unit behind. They're in the middle of the countryside, and we have a nice punk song here, something about I want to visit the country. I don't know, I didn't find the name of the song, but it was a really good track, and I would like to listen to it some more. Um, and they're riding, going past fields of dead cows, lots of crashed cars. This is almost certainly all CGI, and it's pretty good. Like I was trying to find scenes of CG where you could tell, and I wasn't picking up on it. I don't have the best eye for that kind of thing, but
Mm,
I thought it was pretty convincing. What is a little suspicious here is Clay's extrasensory perception because he stops the motorcycle
right.
before the convoy is even apparent. So he's
Right.
he's going so fast. Maybe he'd seen them on a different curve, maybe like going over a hill in the far distance, but he pulls them over. He stops the bike very fast and then pulls them over before this oncoming military convoy even comes into sight.
Right. And he also like the fact that they didn't spot them when they've got somebody right up who's looking for sort of
Yeah, because we can
different
see what they're looking.
anomalies,
We can
right?
see what they're looking for as the scene goes on. Yeah,
Right.
because
Right.
there's another zombie here, a farmer guy, um, and he starts to walk toward Ava and Clay, who are hiding behind a pickup truck. He's still pretty far away though, and he's not moving fast.
And his
Um,
arm's off. So
is he
I don't know
missing an
how
arm?
that worked into it, but
Yeah, and
anyway.
but props to the guy on the turret of the Humvee or whatever, because he nails it with one shot in the head and then goes down. So then I think they're free to continue. And that takes us into the smoke cloud of Hobart, which is a couple of scenes. They stop at a hospital to find an oxygen tank and some masks. I thought this was pretty smart.
Yep.
They're not just going for some N95. They actually hook up to an oxygen tank and
Well, I mean, that's the one that's what I was going to say, like the ash and the like the scene with the smoke, and I thought they did a really good job at showing how horrible it would be. I
yeah.
don't know. This is like I don't think you get through that without oxygen masks and a tank because it's so thick and just it's so devastating to see what happened here. And I thought that some of it looks a little CGI, but like when they're actually biking through the smoke, I thought that was great. And I will say their exit from the hospital and what you see behind them.
Well done.
Oh, this is so rough. And it's actually reminiscent to me of Walking Dead with Rick coming across the walker that's lost their
Like the
leg.
bicycle girl.
Yep, bicycle
Yeah.
girl.
Because what's great is you see their reaction, and then you get like a wider shot of them riding away, but then you see the torso zombie crawling out and gnashing its teeth. Um, so yeah, here they're expressing disgust and surprise, but not fear necessarily.
Right.
Maybe it's fear also because they don't hang around, right? They get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Um, so every zombie we've encountered so far, there's a slightly more um menacing element to each one.
Right.
Like on this scale from motor oil guy, stripper girl, just with the movement of her eyes, the dude in the farmer's field or on that road, and now torso. Each
Right.
one's slightly more menacing than the last. And
Right.
then
And
we, yeah,
yeah, totally. And I mean, let's also we have to talk about the fact that Torso Zombie, Return of the Living Dead is like kind of the OG Torso Zombie. And it also feels like a lot of these zombies, at least like the have some kind of like homage to other films for sure. And there it's a slow burn in terms of their threat level because the first two we encounter aren't really moving or they're just kind of hanging out there. The torso zombie is very fast, actually, but we only really see it from a distance.
yeah.
I
And it's
mean, they
nowhere,
see
it
it.
doesn't seem to get close to them at any point.
No, it doesn't, but obviously they see it and they're horrified. I actually thought that that was a really great, just a really great way. And they're like, we're gonna get on this bike and get the heck away. And then you see like the after, and you don't even see it up close. Like you see it
No,
from a distance and it's horrifying, even what you do see.
yeah.
But moving very quickly, despite the fact that it's just the zombie is just basically using its arms to move. And then obviously as we go into further, there's a lot more menacing zombies to
Well,
be.
yeah, the next one that we meet is even more menacing. Because they stop at a gas station and they go
Mm,
immediately and like drink out of a sink. Like the fact
yeah.
that they did this trip with no water shows how
Yeah, in
little.
Australia, I mean, she maybe doesn't know, but he does. He knows
Yeah,
better. They knows better.
they had so little time. I guess they didn't have time to prepare. They kind of really did it on an impulse.
Mm,
So, but presumably that garage had water. Maybe it was just alcohol and cocaine.
maybe.
Maybe there was no water to be had there.
Mm,
But they like the fact that they go in and drink out of the sink, I thought was actually a good detail. And then they kind of take a break. Like it must be, I don't think it's what time, I don't know what time of day it is, but it's probably afternoon. And she's giving him, he's complaining about his shoulder a lot, and he's already asked her once before they left on their trip, if she would give him some physical therapy for his shoulder because they had moved a very large dead body earlier the day before, and he was complaining.
yeah.
And so she's giving him a little bit of, I would say, very platonic. Like there's, I guess that's what I kind of want to just make sure we're on the same page. We're not shipping these two at all at any point in
No,
this
no,
film,
no. It doesn't ever feel like that vibe with them.
even in the third act.
Even, yeah, and even well, we'll talk about like the even the massage scene did not feel
It's just work.
it's just work, and also like there's never that vibe even from him toward
No,
her.
yeah, and I think that that's refreshing, and it's respectful of the subject matter of this film, which is about a
Right,
woman who's lost her husband.
right.
So I appreciated that. Um, so yeah, they're in this rest stop or garage that has like a seating area. Maybe it's like a gas station restaurant. And in comes now the most menacing zombie we've seen so far.
Mm,
And he's also just like throwing stuff around. Like this is actually uncharacteristic zombie behavior from any canon, right? He
yep.
comes in and he's like throwing chairs. And at first, Clay's first thing he says to him is pretty great. Like I feel like maybe a stereotypical Australian thing you would yell at a zombie is go be a dead cunt somewhere else or something along those lines,
Yeah.
which I liked. Ava is looking quite she's looking scared, and actually they both are because once he starts throwing chairs around, they're like, "Oh, this is actually no, we're scared," and they don't have a way out. They're like they're hemmed in by this guy. He's coming in from the only exit, so they're kind of
Right.
sitting in a stupid place.
With backs to things too.
Yeah.
Like that's just not
Yeah, they did not set up their little waiting spot in the most intelligent way. And there's a dead body in there with them. Like we don't know when these guys will get up and start being zombies either. Like that
right.
actually is not clear throughout this film to me.
That's true.
Um,
And the canon, I mean, their whole sort of mythology is unclear, and they to me there's some contradictions, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So they are saved at the 11th hour by a soldier. I would like to hear from you when you first felt like this guy was not on the level.
Oh, from the first time he's looking at Ava and tells, I mean, I was already getting that vibe, but the minute a character separates characters from each other, there's something wrong.
He's like the tells here are he's covered in blood. Like it's
Yep.
not like he's doused in it, but there are
Nope, but he
specks
is.
and there's blood on his uniform. What
Hmm.
I think they did pretty smart here was he had an earpiece in that
Yeah.
he takes out when he starts to interact with them, and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
he must like when you're if you're thinking of it from his name's Riley
Yep.
Harris. If you think of it from the character of Riley, he has shown up. He knows that there are people inside because he's seen their motorcycle,
Yep.
and he puts in his earpiece because he's like, I'm gonna pretend I'm still in contact with my
Right.
superiors.
Hmm.
So, and he's not overtly weird, I think.
Um,
He's quite sympathetic.
he's not overtly weird, but the thing that I think he does a really good job at is that his reactions are not um normal. They're a little dulled or they're a little like off. Um, I don't want to say it's almost like he's sleepwalking or sort of like automatic, but there's definitely like something off with what he's doing.
Maybe it's too gentle the way he's talking.
Yeah,
Like it's
and
not military enough.
no, and when he puts her, and then of course, when it's really obvious, he locks her in another room. Like, why on earth would you need to do that? And he basically says he's got to question her friend, and I'll tell you, I was like, oh man, Clay is totally dead now.
Yeah.
And I think that was intentional, obviously.
And in a way, we as an audience don't know if Clay is dead really for the rest of the film
Mhm.
because she goes to sleep and she is our link to what is happening in the
Right,
present world. So because she passes out and has dreams about Mitch,
right.
her husband, we don't know what happened to Clay and until Riley. I was calling him Harris in my notes the whole time because I didn't know his first name. But
Hmm.
when he comes back, he's like, "Oh yeah, your friend ran off on me, and I couldn't find him, and that's where I've been for the last while." And you know what? Great bit of performance here from Daisy Ridley. She's just like, I feel like she is buying everything he is saying on her face.
Yeah,
She's like, "Oh yes, sir. I promise I will not run away like he did. I
yep.
will be good." Because
I think she's definitely suspicious.
yeah, I think,
She's on
and more
guard
and
for
more,
sure.
like I loved Daisy Ridley's performance throughout with this guy
Hmm.
because she's she's behaving in a way that I find so believable, especially when they end up at the dinner table and she's just sitting there, not blinking, not eating, just like, how do I end this as fast as possible? You know? And I love that as we move through what becomes more and more like we're looking at a 28 days later scenario here where the
Yep.
soldiers are bringing you back to their mansion for some reason. And it's probably not a great one, right?
Yeah.
So that part, I guess, is a little bit, if not derivative, it's uh, reminiscent of stuff we have seen before in a zombie film.
Right.
But his damage is different from the damage of those soldiers. His brain damage,
Yes,
his
it
trauma.
is.
Yeah. So he's like, I'll take you to your husband. Let's go. But first I just need to stop and pick some stuff up. And they had gotten to what was it, 20 miles, 19 miles from Woodbridge when they got to this gas station. And I think that he takes her in the opposite direction, is kind of what we pick up on as the
Yep.
film continues. And they go to this B&B that he lies and says this is some old farmer's house and it has pretty well stocked with food. But as these scenes progress, we find out pretty quickly that it's his wife's, it's his in-laws. And there's a framed photo of him in there with his wife as he's trying to feed Ava, and she's just not having it. I don't know. I thought these were pretty good scenes. Um, I don't know. What did you think of this is like the second act of the film. What did you think of it?
Um, there were some things that I wasn't totally like I liked her interactions with him. I thought that they made sense and she was on guard with him and very much like I don't know exactly what the full story is. And there is definitely some sympathy and empathy because one of the things he says before he takes her, he says, I'm going to give you safe passage to go and find your husband. I know how this feels. She's seen different things in the house. Like she's seen the life that he had built with his wife, and then she gets that story. So she's on guard, but there's definitely some empathy, but there's also like she plays this really well because I think there's also this I'm going to play along with him because I don't know how much of a threat he might be. Did you get
Yeah.
that vibe?
She's still hopeful that if she
Yeah,
does what
like
he
she's
wants, she'll get what she wants.
yeah, and she's not I mean, I think she's trying to be empathetic, but she's also trying to be smart and not like let and kind of figure out what is her next move. And like I think the one thing I didn't like I thought it was okay editing and you kind of are supposed to like put together certain pieces, but some of the storyline here to me didn't go far enough or it didn't explain enough. It just felt a little thin. Some of it makes sense, but and then, I know what they're doing, but I don't think it was as successful as it maybe could have been because I think I would have liked to know a little bit more about his activities as things are revealed, right?
I mean, I feel like it's pretty clear that, well, the story about him burying his wife is obviously bullshit,
Not.
but so he has kept his pregnant wife in like a shrine, waiting for her to wake up, and he's felt his infant son kicking in her womb.
Yep.
This part is, I think, clear and true. He has been locking up zombies in his shed, as one does. This is a little tropey, I guess. And then writing on a board their behaviors and his observations. And we get to see words like more violent or things like that, right? Like as days go by. And that seems he kind of pronounces this when he runs into Clay and Ava at the gas station. He's like, I've noticed a trend with these ones. As time goes on, they get more wound up. And after there's a very weird scene where he makes Ava dress up in his dead wife's clothes and do a little dance. And Ava's like flashing back to similar moments she's had with her husband while they're doing this as like a defense mechanism, maybe, or just because it's reminiscent,
Maybe, but I think also to show that they absolutely have, like, they're both
damaged.
processing this insane amount of grief
Yeah.
and in some ways, similar grief
Yeah.
or somewhat related grief to things that are unresolved. And we also get some insight into what maybe why some people come back, and that's Riley eventually says to her that they come back because they have unresolved things that they didn't deal with. And that resonates obviously with her, and we find out a little bit later about why that is. And they fill in a little bit more of the pieces where, some of and you kind of think you know everything, and they slowly fill in the backstory with Ava, but you do see the pain and that they were trying to have a baby and
Right. Then this is the pain. This is like new information that they
right.
lost a child, she and her husband, more
Yeah,
than likely, that they are sad, but that they're gonna keep trying.
right.
So I like the way that these flashbacks kind of spoon feed out this story because the dramatic tension that she has with her husband evolves over the course of the film,
Right.
even though
And
it's
then with
all
Riley, I mean, with Riley, you've got also just this horrible grief. And he even says it like flat out, like his wife was expecting like 2 weeks away from having a baby boy, that the rug was just pulled right out from under him and it just felt, and he happened to be out of town. And this is where we learn when things really happen because when he goes to recover and he talks about it, he talks about finding her and her family and they had obviously been eating breakfast. He even says like the toast was still in the rack and things like that.
Mhm.
And so there is definitely a moment where it's like these two have so much in common in terms of that grief, but they have chosen very different ways to kind of deal with that. Though in fairness, she has not yet seen her husband. She's just guessing. Whereas we eventually find out he has absolutely been living with this since, he recovered his wife. And, um, but it takes a turn. Like, I guess the part that it wasn't clear to me, like he wants her to act like his wife, but what exactly is he expecting her to do? It doesn't seem like it's going anywhere good. Um,
Yeah. Like
and
where's this gonna end? Yeah.
right. And so he's like I thought one of the great things they did is that they didn't actually show him ask her whatever this request was.
Hmm.
Um, and then she's just doing this thing where she's dressing the clothes. It, it seems very important to him that she wear his wife's ring. And they do this dance. And again, I thought that was all really well done, but there is this tension and there's this grief, but there's also this tension. And I thought that that was really well done. Um,
Then
where,
it turns out to be he loses his mind because she
yeah,
hasn't worn the
he
ring.
actually has lost his mind.
She refuses to wear the ring. This is a
Yep.
reasonable thing for her to draw a line at,
Yep.
frankly.
Yep. Agree.
And so then he's starting to like get violent or physical with her. So she defends herself. Smacks him over the head with a vase, runs into the room where we find Katie's body is laid out in some sort of situation. uh, Jumps out the window, tries to get his car keys, but can't get to them before he comes down the stairs looking murderous. And so she runs into the shed. And then Ava, I will say, does some amazing acting in this scene. Not Daisy Ridley, but Daisy Ridley as Ava as Katie, I guess, where she stands up and says, "Oh my gosh, sweetie, you hit your head. Let me help you out. I forgot my ring. Maybe I can put it back on and we can finish our dance." And you think maybe she'll get away with it,
Yep.
but
And
it goes kind of as you might expect.
yep.
So she does kill Riley, rip. And then I thought the way that the scene concludes was quite surprising, because Katie did not look like she was about to get up out of bed when we last saw her. But then when Ava turns on the car, um, Katie's standing there in front of it, looking pregnant, not like coming after her, just stroking her belly and looking around. Pretty cool, I thought.
Yeah, definitely. And I liked the reveal with her and I liked the lighting here.
Yeah.
It's incredibly disturbing, and it's also, I guess I do want to know who all the people were that he's gathered up because he's doing all this research. Like, are these his family members or these
Well, he
people he
doesn't
gathered
have
up?
names, does he? He's describing them as like brown-haired lady and
Yeah.
stuff. So I don't think
So
they're his
I think
relatives
he's
per
doing
se.
research as it relates to his wife.
Yeah.
But it's really, really disturbing. And he has
It's
them
a
chained up, so he's worried enough about them, but his wife is definitely not chained up. So,
and when the zombies notice Ava, they all clank their teeth together and kind of strain at their bonds. Their eyes are all doing the shiny cat's eye thing, which I find always very affecting. Like when they
yeah.
did that in Salem's Lot, I thought that was super cool. They're doing it in this
Yep.
movie, and I think it's super cool. All the dead from this pulse weapon seem their eyes have turned yellow.
Hmm.
It seems anyway, and I guess part of that is having shiny irises.
Yep.
So she drives off in his car. She's leaving the pregnant Katie zombie behind. Wakes up the next day. Apparently, I think the truck is out of gas, is what we can assume because she leaves it behind. Changes her out of the dead Katie dress into some rando's clothes that she finds in a suitcase on the side of the road. She has an axe and 20 miles or so to walk, maybe 30, because we pass a road sign. And
Yeah.
she's making her way along the coast. There's a great scene here breaking up this part of the film, so she can't just walk to the Enso Resort without any impact whatsoever, where a zombie chases her and who has a terrifyingly fast looking run. Like the shot of that guy running at her, that dude has a gait he looks fast, doesn't he?
He does. And he's covering like a lot of ground. So this
Yeah.
is the most aggressive I think we've really seen.
We are at peak zombie
Yep.
aggression.
And I do love the shot. I love these shots. I love this whole thing where, we get to see like the angles of how she escapes from him.
Right. We're
Uh,
like that bus is on its side. We're
yeah, it's
overhead
pretty
looking
good.
in the broken windows
Yep.
as she crawls through the bus that's full of dead people. Zombie has jumped in there with her and they're just moving laterally through the bus and we're looking down. I think that must was either a crane or a drone shot. They use a lot of overhead shots in this film, and I think to good effect.
Great, great effect. And you know, I thought the choreography was really incredible here, where it's, she loses her axe and they make that very clear, and then she's having to basically try to figure out how to, like, I don't think she's really thinking. I think she's just using whatever's around her,
Yeah.
but
Crushes his
um,
head with a fire extinguisher.
right.
And she
And
must be just using like, crazy adrenaline strength at this point because she basically crushes his head almost the first time without, but then she
right.
has to do it a couple more times, but she takes care
Yeah.
of this guy.
Yeah, the
But
jump
like,
scare was pretty good when he comes back and she has to do it again.
yeah,
So
do you feel like this movie would have been better if we'd seen it, what would happen if a zombie caught a person?
I guess I'd want to know what they were trying to accomplish. That would have been helpful. And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like we definitely have these things, but there's no resolution about why or what. And even when we get to the scene, with the camper family, it's not totally like that. They say the one thing is that the longer they have been reanimated, the more aggressive they get, and maybe that's because they're not able to resolve what they're trying to resolve, and they can't communicate that, and they're just not sure how to go about that because like everything's short circuiting.
Hmm.
But that would have been cooler to understand why. And then what would happen if they do like there he does not seem like anything good is going to happen if he catches her, but we never see what actually happens once that would occur.
I feel like it might have been helpful to see some extra get
Right.
murdered by a zombie,
Right.
but
But they did not do that.
they did not do that. So the closest we come is this bus scene, and it's a great scene. And it's great to see our heroine take care of business. And then she does find this RV and kind of, reminiscent of body retrieval unit. She carries the bodies of this family outside, lays them out, and then goes to sleep. And then Papa Zombie does wake up in the middle of the night, and we're like, "Oh, what's he going to be doing?" And he like finds the trunk of something, gets a shovel, and starts digging graves. And when she comes out of the RV, which I was like, "What are you doing? What are you doing out there at night?" Um, he just looks at her and then keeps digging, and so she helps him bury his family. Interesting choices here. Very not what you would expect from a zombie movie, uh, dear critics. Not at all well trodden ground. So it seems like his unfinished business, which I don't think necessarily makes sense unless they were all dead before the pulse weapon went off. But his unfinished business was to bury his family.
Yep.
I mean, to me, that is maybe a slight leap because everybody else is in theory trying to finish the business that they had in life,
True.
right? Unless he was planning to bury his family before he died, you know
Well,
what I'm
that
saying?
was actually my question was like, were they already dead or, but this whole thing was that this was maybe, I don't know, that was the one story that like didn't totally jive, but like maybe this was just, I don't know, maybe he felt this as they were dying, who knows? But they all went kind of automatically. So I don't know.
Yeah. So he then kind of gives her another look after they've buried everybody. He's in the grave with his family, and then she does him in with a shovel. She's also been having more flashbacks of her husband or hearing his voice saying things like "You're almost here" or "Come and get me" or something along those lines. A little bit
Yeah.
farther, something like that.
Yeah.
Uh, kills Papa Zombie, and then we get some more shots at some point. Maybe it was before the bus scene of like a plane that had crashed and all the dead and all the wreckage strewn across the beach. I thought that was another good shot. But eventually she arrives at the resort, and I had a chuckle when I saw the people in downward facing dog or whatever pose.
Yeah, it was really rough.
There's just a yoga class where they were all just doing their morning yoga, and they all died in perfect position.
Hmm.
We get a shot of the employee of the month, Ruby. who is another angry zombie. What's her unfinished business? Not sure. She seems to just
I
want to
know.
eat
Employee
Ava's
of the
face.
month.
Yeah. She'd achieved so much.
Yep.
And then we have the scenes of her finding Mitch, and here we have another evolution of their story, which I thought was quite interesting because we don't really know the whole thing until later. But here it turns out Mitch had a lady in his room. We don't get to
Yep.
see her, which is interesting. We only see her ID.
I actually, even before they got to this and even before we knew the storyline, I was like, there is um there's a very good chance that she ends up at this resort and there's somebody else there. Like long before any of the other story came, because I was like, what would be even more devastating than finding your significant other? Well, finding that things were maybe not as you thought. It's a little not better than that because I mean they were clearly going through some things and then she reveals something as well. But um yeah, I thought it was going to be worse than what actually happened. So at least the lady in question was not present when she found her husband.
I think she's in the bathroom.
Oh, was she in the bathroom?
I mean, we don't know that for sure, but the way that her eyes linger
Yeah.
on that
Okay.
room and says she's pretty,
Yeah.
was pretty. I mean,
Well,
she
she
could say
saw
that just
the
from looking at the ID, but I think it's
yeah.
also suggested that she's in the
Rough.
bathroom.
Rough.
Yeah. And her husband's there and he's dead and not coming back, but his eyes are open.
Yep.
So I was kind of waiting for him to pop up.
Me too,
And
but he did not.
she gets kind of emotional as you would imagine. And she's like, "Aren't you going to get up? I'm right here. Let's sort this out. Don't we have unfinished business, the two of us?"
Yeah.
Which I thought was, you know, so she's done all this work to get to this moment. And you get the feeling it's a little anticlimactic for her, but also terrifying, terribly
Yeah.
you know, destructive. And then we hear somebody calling her name, and in pops Clay, and I was really happy to see him show up.
I was happy to see him, and so was she, and also surprised. So it actually was a nice antidote to um, or a good counterbalance to some of the grief
Yeah,
happening. Because this is a devastating thing that she's dealing with here. So many layers of emotions. And like she's not getting exactly the closure she wanted, but I don't know that she ever was going to. And um, this is just, and then to have somebody actually there though that while he's not the perfect and most comforting person, I actually think that his way of doing things is helpful here.
just
Um,
him showing up at the hotel represents this like level of devotion though that
right?
is like the perfect, like, to me, he's not trying to get in her pants as far as we can
Oh,
tell. He's there to basically be her chauffeur as he describes himself earlier, and also though he's showing up despite the fact that he's completely off the hook. He
yep.
doesn't need to.
He
um
definitely doesn't need to. And also, like, look, the only thing that this is part of what I was saying, like in terms of like the storytelling, what's going on. I mean, he ran away. Maybe he thought better of it, came back, to help her. But she's off with that guy, and we know, like, he knows that that guy's kind of psycho.
Yeah, because
Um,
he that's the next scene. He's like, how'd you get away from that crazy guy? We don't hear any of the
we don't hear
story.
anything about it. Um, But, and this is like the interesting thing about his character when he finally describes all of the things that are motivating him. I think he is really trying to be that person, and sometimes his nature just gets in the way of that. But I think ultimately at the bottom level, or the base level with him, he is doing those things. And so even though and he's not trying to like get into her pants. Like these two get so rip roaring drunk and like kind of doing crazy stuff at this resort, which honestly seems like somewhat unsafe because they're like swimming in the
Well,
pool and just kind of like going crazy without clearly any security.
I kind of
Um,
felt like this movie was going to end on that rock when they're looking out over the water.
yeah, I thought that was it. And
I was convinced. I was like, okay, roll credits. They've both had their moment. She's admitted that she had an affair, and that's why, there's like it's guilt that brought her here in a way. Um, like so his affair is just in response to her affair because they had also tried IVF and it hadn't, or no, she wanted to try IVF after their failed pregnancy, yada yada. Very complicated. layered marital issue.
Right.
But I
And
thought
just
that was going to
sad.
be it. I thought that was going to be the end.
Yeah, and just sad all around. And, she finally has that catharsis. And the two of them, nope, that's not it. And so they do what they need to do. It's even like, I don't know that it was necessary. Like, I mean, obviously they've been, this was like the kind of odd, like, you know, they're going to resolve this by giving him a bit of a Viking funeral. And,
Not before Clay throws up on his
no,
body.
but that's what I was going to say. And then they do that, which I was like, okay, I don't know what you're doing with this. This is
But
odd.
also in their drunken night, and I appreciate also the detail, like desexualizing their relationship further. She's in her underwear, but she's wearing like a hotel polo shirt to
Yep.
swim in. Like she's being like I don't know if I'm reading into this too much, but it felt like yeah, they're not even gonna let them seem like there's temptation in a way.
Yeah,
It
no, there was
was
no remote kind of temptation there. So I thought that that was actually I was really happy about that because
yeah,
I was like, this woman has just gone through the ringer. She's grieving. She's having to deal with a lot of new information, and she's also dealing with, that things aren't. I think she had some idea she was going to get to see him. He would reanimate. I don't know what that would do, but
yeah, it probably wouldn't have
maybe.
gone great.
But maybe confirmation for her that they had unresolved things and maybe it had been resolved for him and that's hard too. But anyway,
And during
yeah.
their party scene, a zombie comes into the swimming pool, and it's almost like it's not definitely not a foreground event, but it kind of ends their party. A
Mm,
zombie comes into the swimming pool. She grabs an empty bottle of champagne and bludgeons it to death, with Clay looking on kind of disturbed by the level of pent-up anger that Ava seems to have. But she
yeah.
destroys this zombie. And then like cut to the next day, they're trying to bury Clay. Not bury Clay, but bury Mitch, and he's throwing up on the body, and
Yep.
she's just expressing frustration with Clay
Yeah.
in a very like fraternal sort of way.
Yeah, no, they do a really good job with this. And then, then they're off to going back to wherever they were and this was, this is the part that I'm just so the ending of this film leaves me with so many questions. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's introducing questions. Um, yeah, like they're in a way introducing this part means that the movie could have gone on for another 30 minutes in a way.
Hmm.
So they're passing the Bluebird bed and breakfast in a Land Rover or some sort of Outback truck, kind of truck you
Hmm.
imagine gets driven around Australia a lot. When they see Katie in the middle of the road,
Yep.
blood on her dress,
Front and back.
not pregnant anymore. And Clay's about to drive around her when Ava's like, no, something feels weird and gets out. Katie does not charge. Katie just gives her a look and then turns away and shambles off.
Yep.
So more of this sort of zombie behavior that Ava seems keyed in to respond to.
Well,
Obviously,
and the last time,
She's fine destroying zombies also, but
right,
in this case, then they start to hear the cries of a baby.
right. And this is the thing. So she saw Katie before. Katie's pregnant. Now she's clearly not pregnant and looks like she has given birth. And suddenly we're able to hear the cries of this child. And she totally
What were you
runs.
thinking, zombie baby or human baby?
I was thinking zombie, but I was also like, I just don't know how this would work. But it looks human. They don't really, they leave it a little bit ambiguous because the baby never opens its eyes, but it doesn't look modeled. It doesn't look like a zombie.
No.
Um, and I really thought it was going to go to a pretty dark place before she found the baby, and it looked okay. But it looks normal for the most part.
Yeah,
Um,
it's just I mean it looks like a several month old baby. That's the only thing that
yeah,
this
yeah,
thing
it's a big baby.
big boy. Uh
Um,
that so yeah, they found themselves a baby. Clay's taking off his shirt to like to put around her the child. And what is that where the credits roll right there?
yeah, and Clay just kind of takes this in with very little. Like he's like, oh, okay, baby,
Yeah, we got a
you
baby
know.
now, you know. Yeah.
He's fine. He's fine with it. Um, and so there's not really like payoff here, really. Um, you
Well,
know.
yeah, I don't
So-
know. Like the payoff what is she's gonna raise the child of the man
Well,
who
I think.
was
Well,
gonna
I mean,
murder
what
her.
I want to understand is how this child was like actually carried to full whatever by a zombie.
Yeah. And
Because
in
it's
in theory is like a couple weeks early before his due date, probably,
yeah.
or a week.
Although he looks massive, but
He's
still.
he's huge. Yeah, and like the umbilical cord is on the baby when you see it from like a medium distance shot.
Mm,
Apparently Katie took care of the umbilical herself, and then wandered off, leaving it on this like stone altar in this ruined shack.
yeah.
So yeah, a lot of questions here. Part of me wants to see them roll back up to the burial, or, the body retrieval unit, and be like, so got this baby from a zombie. We've
Yeah.
got stories to tell you. Um, is the child going to be raised by Ava or by the system? Hard to say.
I think Ava. I think she's just going to claim this baby. Who does she have to tell anything to? Nobody's paying attention.
I'm sure that she can get on a plane with a baby after she arrived without one, no problem.
Yeah. But then let's also talk about the fact that Riley, the dad, is like definitely doesn't get to see this miracle. I know he was crazy, but and I don't know what his intention was, like what he was going to do to Ava. Like that's the part that I was sort of mysterious to me. Like, was he expecting her to help birth the baby? Like, what was the end game there other
Yeah,
than pretending to dance with his wife? Like, that's the part where I was like, this doesn't totally make sense. And she's, he's absolutely threatening her and being crazy, but it still feels really horrible that he doesn't get to see his kid in some way. So,
you feel really bad for him.
like, just everything about that felt like,
Well, his wife finally wakes up as soon as he's dead.
right.
I mean, if the fact that she's already downstairs makes you think she must have been awake while he was talking to Ava in the
Yeah.
barn.
Yeah.
But yeah, he misses the whole thing he's been waiting for. And if he had seen Katie come out of his house, maybe he would have turned around and been like, "Oh, this is great." But then Ava wouldn't have been able to get his car and yada
True,
yada.
true, true. But still, it was so that's the part that it was uneven or not satisfying to me because I think, I can deal with him being crazy, her protecting herself, but that feels really tragic that he doesn't that this all happened. But
I didn't feel bad for him because he had lost his marbles.
oh, I don't like feel bad for him that like I don't like he shouldn't be attacking her, certainly. I'm more saying like as part of the storyline,
Yeah.
it's somebody who's going through that much grief. I am surprised they didn't go a different way with the storyline. But
Yeah.
but then you
It
wouldn't have her be like I guess finding the baby. I don't know.
I don't know about you. I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I actually watched it twice because I'd rented it. I was like, well, I've only got 48 hours to watch this thing. Might as well watch it twice.
Yeah, I
Um,
really liked the movie. I thought it was great. I kind of wanted a little bit more with her and Clay somehow. I want to know a little bit more about where they end up. Like I don't know, like getting away from the army or whatever. How they're gonna talk their way through with this baby. Like that to me would have been kind of fun.
interesting. Yeah.
But I do like the fact that I liked this film. I thought it was really well done, and I appreciated the art that went into making it. I definitely liked the landscape, and I thought that this was a really effective way, like honestly, one of the more effective ways of showing some disaster in the aftermath. And with the little nits that we're talking about in terms of trying to figure out what would have happened if they had caught somebody after they're reanimated for a longer amount of time, would have been helpful. But I thought this was quite successful, and I really liked it.
Yeah, I agree. On some level, like never showing a zombie eat a person only makes you wonder more, and that's interesting. So I think it
Yeah,
didn't
maybe.
necessarily hurt the film by not showing that, because maybe then you're going down that quote unquote well-trodden zombie trope territory.
Maybe.
Anyway, awesome stuff. So let us know if you watched this film and enjoyed it. Let us know what you thought. You can email us at reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com. And we'll be back again soonish with more
So until next time, bye bye.
Toodaloo.